Imagine standing on a battlefield in 1781. You're a soldier in a ragged uniform. Your boots have holes. You haven't been paid in months. The currency in your pocket is worthless paper. Your commander is leading a revolution against the most powerful empire on earth. Victory seems impossible. This was America, a nation that didn't exist on any map. A dream held together by desperation and hope. Fast forward 249 years. That same nation controls nearly 25% of the entire world's wealth. Its currency is trusted more than gold. Its military has bases on every continent. Its companies are worth trillions. So here is the question that haunts historians. How does a bankrupt collection of farmers become the richest country in human history? In 1776, America wasn't a country. It was a gamble. 13 colonies with different laws, different economies, different cultures, no central government. No national currency that anyone trusted. No factories. No navy worth mentioning. According to economic historians, the entire economic output of all 13 colonies combined was less than a single British city like Manchester. Britain had the Industrial Revolution. America had farms. Britain had the world's most powerful navy. America had fishing boats. Britain had centuries of accumulated wealth. America had debt. To put it in perspective, if the American Revolution were a startup, no investor would touch it. The odds of survival were almost zero, and yet it survived. Not only survived, it dominated. The question isn't just how America got rich. It's how it rewrote the entire global economy and its image. Let's talk about the mechanics of how a nation builds wealth from nothing. Think of a country like a machine. It needs fuel, parts, and a system to convert energy into output. For America, the fuel was land. Endless, resource-rich, seemingly infinite land. When Thomas Jefferson purchased the Louisiana Territory in 1803 for $15 million, he didn't just buy land. He bought future wheat fields, oil reserves, coal mines, and rivers for transportation. He bought scale. And scale is the secret ingredient of wealth. But land alone doesn't make you rich. Saudi Arabia has oil, but for centuries it was just sand. You need systems. Enter Alexander Hamilton. In 1790, Hamilton did something radical. He took all the messy debts from the Revolutionary War and consolidated them into one national debt. States owed money. The federal government owed money. Soldiers were owed money. It was chaos, Hamilton said. We will honor every debt. This sounds boring, but it was revolutionary. According to historians, this one move established American creditworthiness. Foreign investors realized, America pays its debts. Suddenly, borrowing money became possible. Borrowing money meant building infrastructure. Infrastructure meant economic growth. Hamilton also created the first bank of the United States, a central bank to stabilize currency and manage government finances. Think of it as the operating system for the economy. Without it, America would have remained 13 separate economic zones. With it, America became one integrated market, and markets love scale. By the 1820s, the machine was humming. The Erie Canal opened in 1825, connecting the Great Lakes to the Atlantic. Suddenly, a farmer in Ohio could sell grain to New York. Transportation costs collapsed. Trade exploded. Then came the railroads. If canals were highways, railroads were teleportation. By 1860, America had more railroad track than the rest of the world combined. Railroads didn't just move goods, they created markets. A steel mill in Pittsburgh could sell to California. A rancher in Texas could sell beef to Chicago. Every mile of track added economic velocity. But here's the dark truth behind the mechanics. The fuel for this machine wasn't just land and capital, it was people. Millions of enslaved Black Americans, stolen from Africa, forced to work without pay. Their labor produced cotton, tobacco, sugar commodities that fed northern factories and European mills. According to historians, by 1860, the value of enslaved people in the South exceeded the value of all the railroads and factories in the entire country. America's wealth wasn't built on ingenuity alone. It was built on exploitation. In 1861, the machine broke. The Civil War wasn't just a moral crisis. It was an economic civil war. The North had factories, railroads, and wage labor. The South had plantations, cotton, and slavery. Two incompatible economic systems collided. Over 600,000 Americans died. Cities burned. Entire economies collapsed. But here's the paradox. The war accelerated industrialization. To win, the North had to produce weapons, uniforms, and supplies at massive scale. Factories that made textiles started making tents. Foundries that made plows started making cannons. The war taught American industry how to scale production. When the war ended in 1865, slavery was abolished. 4 million people were suddenly free, but without land, capital, or education. The promise of Reconstruction largely failed. Racial inequality would haunt the economy for generations. But the federal government emerged stronger, national identity solidified, and industrialization exploded. Between 1865 and 1900, America transformed faster than any nation in history. In 1865, most Americans were farmers. By 1900, America was an industrial giant. What changed? 3 forces: immigration, innovation, and infrastructure. Immigration brought millions from Europe: Irish, Italians, Germans, Eastern Europeans, Jews fleeing persecution. They worked in steel mills, coal mines, railroads, and garment factories. According to historians, between 1880 and 1920, over 20 million immigrants arrived. They weren't just labor, they were entrepreneurs, inventors, and dreamers. Innovation exploded. Thomas Edison didn't just invent the light bulb, he created the electrical grid, transforming cities. Alexander Graham Bell's telephone collapsed distance. Andrew Carnegie's steel built skyscrapers and bridges. John D. Rockefeller's oil powered the new economy. Henry Ford's assembly line made cars affordable, creating entire industries. Rubber, glass, roads, gas stations, all because of one innovation. Infrastructure expanded geometrically. Railroads connected every corner of the continent. Telegraph lines carried information instantly. Electricity turned night into day. By 1890, the United States had the largest economy in the world, surpassing Britain, but wealth concentrated at the top. Robber barons built monopolies. Workers labored 12-hour days in dangerous conditions for pennies. Child labor was common. There were no safety regulations, no minimum wage, no weekends. Strikes were often crushed by violence. The Gilded Age was golden on the surface, rotten underneath. In 1914, Europe tore itself apart. America stayed neutral, but sold weapons, food, and supplies to Britain and France. According to historians, the war turbocharged American industry. Factories ran 24/7. Farmers exported record quantities of wheat. By the time America entered the war in 1917, it was already the world's banker. When the war ended in 1918, Europe was devastated. Millions dead, cities destroyed, economies shattered. America emerged as the world's largest creditor. Europe owed America billions. The global balance of power had shifted. The 1920s roared. Stock markets soared. Consumer culture exploded: radios, cars, appliances. Credit became easy. Everyone felt rich. But it was a house of cards. October 1929. The stock market crashed. In weeks, billions in wealth vanished. Banks failed. Factories closed. Unemployment hit 25%. Breadlines stretched for blocks. According to historians, it was the worst economic catastrophe in modern history. For a decade, America struggled. President Franklin D. Roosevelt launched the New Deal, massive government programs to create jobs and reform finance. It helped, but didn't fully solve the crisis. What ended the Great Depression wasn't policy, it was war. December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. America entered World War II, and everything changed. The war required total economic mobilization. Factories that made cars now made tanks. Women flooded into factories. Unemployment vanished overnight. According to historians, by 1945, the United States was producing nearly half of the world's total manufacturing output. Half. Think about that. One nation, 6% of the world's population, producing half of everything. When the war ended, Europe and Asia lay in ruins. But America's factories were untouched. Its workforce was massive. Its military was unmatched, and it had the atomic bomb. America didn't just win the war. It won the future. In July 1944, before the war even ended, something extraordinary happened in a small town in New Hampshire. Bretton Woods. Representatives from 44 nations gathered to redesign the global financial system, and they built it around America. Here's how the mechanics worked. The US dollar, backed by gold, became the world's reserve currency. Every other currency was pegged to the dollar. If you wanted to trade internationally, you needed dollars. The International Monetary Fund and World Bank were dominated by American influence. According to economic historians, Bretton Woods was the most important economic agreement of the 20th century. It didn't just make America rich. It made the world dependent on America. Think of it like this. America became the bank, the currency printer, and the rule maker all at once. If global trade was a game, America wrote the rules. After the war, America didn't retreat. It launched the Marshall Plan, over $12 billion to rebuild Europe. This wasn't charity. It created markets for American goods. It prevented the spread of communism. It locked in American influence. The Cold War had begun. The Soviet Union promoted state-controlled economies. America promoted capitalism and free markets. For 45 years, the world was split, but America's economy boomed. The 1950s and 60s became America's golden age. Soldiers returned home and used the GI Bill to buy houses and attend college. Suburbs exploded. The interstate highway system connected the nation like never before. Television became universal and created new industries. According to historians, the American middle class reached its peak. A factory worker could buy a house, a car, and support a family on one income. That seems unimaginable today. But not everyone shared in the wealth. Racial segregation and discrimination excluded Black Americans from economic opportunity. Redlining prevented them from buying homes in wealthy neighborhoods. Discrimination blocked access to jobs and education. The civil rights movement fought to dismantle these barriers. Legislation in the 1960s opened doors, but economic inequality persisted. Meanwhile, American corporations became global empires. Coca-Cola, IBM, General Motors, McDonald's, brands that dominated the world. The dollar's dominance meant American companies could invest anywhere. American culture, movies, music, fashion spread everywhere. This was soft power. The world didn't just trade with America, it wanted to be America. Then the 1970s shattered the illusion. The Vietnam War drained resources and morale. In 1971, President Nixon ended the dollar's convertibility to gold. Bretton Woods was dead. Now the dollar was backed by nothing but trust. Surprisingly, the world kept using it. Why? Because there was no alternative. America was still the largest economy, the most powerful military, the most stable democracy. Trust in America was stronger than gold. But then came the oil shocks. In 1973, Arab nations embargoed oil exports to America. Gas prices quadrupled. Lines stretched for miles at gas stations. Inflation spiked. The economy stagnated. According to historians, stagflation defied traditional economics. It seemed like America's dominance was ending. The 1980s brought a new philosophy. President Reagan slashed taxes, cut regulations, and promoted free market capitalism. Manufacturing jobs started moving overseas where labor was cheaper. Factories closed in the Rust Belt. But a new economy was emerging. Silicon Valley. In the 1980s and 90s, the computer revolution exploded. Apple, Microsoft, Intel, companies that would reshape the world. The internet, originally a military project, went public. Suddenly, information could travel instantly, globally, for free. According to historians, the digital revolution was as transformative as the Industrial Revolution, and America led it. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. By 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The Cold War was over. America was the sole superpower. The 1990s were triumphant. The economy boomed. The stock market soared. The internet created entirely new industries. Amazon began selling books online. Google organized the world's information. Facebook connected billions. Tech companies became more valuable than oil giants or car manufacturers. The American economy shifted from making things to managing information. Budget deficits turned into surpluses. Unemployment hit record lows. It felt like America had cracked the code. Then the new millennium brought earthquakes. In 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. Trillions in stock value evaporated. Tech companies collapsed overnight. Then came September 11, 2001. Terrorists attacked New York and Washington. America launched wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. These wars would cost trillions and last decades. Then came 2008, the financial crisis. Banks had been making risky loans, bundling them into complex securities, and selling them worldwide. When the housing market collapsed, the entire financial system nearly failed. Lehman Brothers collapsed. The stock market crashed. Unemployment spiked. Millions lost their homes. According to historians, it was the worst crisis since the Great Depression. The government stepped in with massive bailouts. The Federal Reserve slashed interest rates and printed trillions. Slowly, painfully, the economy recovered. By the mid-2010s, unemployment fell. Stocks reached record highs. Tech companies became the most valuable corporations in history. Apple crossed $1 trillion in valuation. Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, American tech ruled the world. Then came 2020 COVID-19. The global economy shut down. Unemployment spiked to levels not seen in decades. Businesses closed. Supply chains broke. Governments spent trillions to prevent collapse. The pandemic exposed deep inequalities. Essential workers risked their lives for low wages. White-collar workers stayed home. Billionaires got richer. Millions struggled to pay rent. But the economy rebounded faster than expected. Vaccines rolled out. Restrictions lifted. Stocks soared again. Remote work and e-commerce exploded. Digital transformation accelerated a decade in a single year. By 2021, the economy was roaring again, but new challenges emerged. As of 2025, America remains the world's largest economy. GDP over $27 trillion. The dollar is still the global reserve currency. American tech companies dominate every sector. Hollywood shapes global culture. American universities attract the world's brightest. The U.S. military maintains over 750 bases worldwide, but the picture is complicated. Income inequality is at historic highs. The richest 1% own more wealth than the bottom 90%. Student debt exceeds $1.7 trillion. Healthcare costs are the highest in the world. Housing is unaffordable in major cities. Infrastructure is aging. Political division is deep. And China has risen as a formidable rival. China is now the world's second largest economy. It challenges the U.S. in manufacturing, technology, and global influence. According to analysts, the U.S.-China relationship will define the 21st century. The question is whether America can maintain its position. History teaches that no empire lasts forever. Rome fell, Spain declined, Britain faded. Every dominant power rises, peaks, and eventually declines. America rose from nothing in 1776. It peaked after World War II. Are we watching the decline now? Or another transformation? America has reinvented itself before. From agriculture to industry. From industry to information, each crisis forced adaptation. The Civil War accelerated industrialization. The Great Depression reshaped finance and government. World War II created a superpower. The Cold War drove technological innovation. The 2008 crisis exposed fragility but didn't break the system. The pandemic accelerated a digital revolution. America's strength has always been reinvention. But reinvention is not guaranteed. America's wealth was built from geography, timing, institutions, immigration, innovation, and exploitation. Stolen land from indigenous peoples. Stolen labor from enslaved Africans. Cheap immigrant labor. Global wars that destroyed rivals while leaving America untouched. These aren't footnotes, they're foundations. America's story is genius and brutality, innovation and inequality, freedom and exploitation. The future depends on choices made now. Can America tackle climate change? Can it compete with China without conflict? Can it heal internal divisions? Can it build an economy that works for everyone? The story of how America became rich is remarkable. But the story of whether it stays rich is still being written. From 13 fragile colonies to a $27 trillion superpower, America's rise is unmatched. But wealth and power are never permanent. They must be earned, defended, and constantly reimagined. So here's the real question. What will America do with its wealth now? And are we living in the middle of renewal or the beginning of decline? Tell me in the comments what you think happens next.